I've been on a mission to make things that I use every day a bit more cozy. It started with my desktop and folder icons, and today I'm going to take you through the process of redesigning my mouse cursor to fit in with the theme as well. Let's jump into it. Hey, my name is Jade, and I like to paint with pixels. A quick heads up, I've only found that changing the cursor works in Windows and not on Mac, and I'm not sure about Linux either, but just keep that in mind if you ever want to try this yourself. The first question I had to answer is whether this is even possible to do with pixel art. After doing some research, I found that the default cursor size is 32 by 32 pixels, which sounds perfect for pixel art, as this is a similar canvas size to what I've worked with in the past. But then I discovered how Windows scales their cursors through the accessibility settings. Each step on this slider scales the cursor by 0.5, and if you know anything about pixel art, scaling by any decimal does not work that well. So a cursor that is exactly 32 by 32 pixels will look okay on some of the settings, but then a bit more crunchy on every even step on the scale. So how do we make a cursor that works at any scale? We keep it small. Like, really small. 16 is a number that works for every step of the scale, and so the canvas size for my cursors starts at 16 by 16 pixels. At first this felt like it would be impossible to fit both the cursor and a little character into this tiny canvas, but it also felt like a fun challenge. And I'm also a little stubborn, so I was determined to make this work, or at least give it a go. A lot of this process was done in my art streams over my Twitch channel, which, as always, is linked in the description. I'll be using Pixsquare on the iPad to draw and animate my cursors. To make sure I had enough room for both elements, I tried to work on both of them in tandem, trying to keep the main cursor shapes to the top left and the character to the bottom right in order to utilize as much of the canvas space as possible. At this point I had already trialed out some ideas at the size of 32 by 32 pixels, so I copied those over to help me get started. I think the cursor shape that I struggled with the most, at both 32 and 16 pixels, was the pointer hand, for when you select a link. Hands are a struggle for me even at bigger canvas sizes, so trying to condense that shape down into what ended up being 8 by 8 pixels was really tricky. I found that putting the hand at sort of an angle rather than directly face on, like the default cursor, helped a lot with defining the shapes of both the thumb and the main pointer finger, which I think are the key shapes in defining what position the hand was in. Something that I also found quite useful when the cursor shapes got a bit bigger was to put my character's face also at an angle. That way it meant that it would still be readable because they took up less width when their faces turned, and it also made it a bit more interactive as it looked like the character was reacting to the cursor changes. I wanted to add animation to some of the states, but not all of them, because I find that it can be a bit distracting to have a moving cursor on the default state that you'll see most of the time. Some of the animations didn't quite work in testing. Take for example the link select again. I wanted to have a really short 2-frame animation where the main pointer finger moved down to look as though they were clicking a link. But when I tested it on desktop, it looked a bit strange that it was already clicking a link before I had done anything. It also just looked like it was trying to tickle any linked text on the screen, so we scrapped that idea. In the end we ended up with animations for the states with a loading wheel and the unavailable state, which I think is one of my favorites, but it's a shame that it's not really seen often. To actually use your cursors, you'll need to use a different software to re-export your images into a different file format. For static cursors, you'll need to export it to a .cur file, and for animated cursors, you'll need to export it to a .ani file. Once they're exported to the right file format, setting up the cursor was very simple to do. To start, make sure your cursor files are in the safe location where they can't be accidentally deleted. Open up the settings and go to Bluetooth and devices. Then go to mouse, mouse pointer and touch, and open up the customized pointer image. For each cursor, hit browse and go to the folder location where you saved the cursor files. Select the correct file for each state and hit apply. Repeat this step for every cursor state and your cursor is ready to use. If you need to increase the cursor size, you can use the slider here. With a couple of adjustments, here is the final result. I'm really happy I didn't give up on this idea when I saw the initial canvas size. I feel like each state is distinct enough that you can see what each of them mean, and the way that the little character looks up in certain states is really cute. I got very into this and have since made a bunch of different characters as cursors as well. But I think the frog one ties in nicely with the Ducky Frog Pond desktop pack I made. You can get this froggy cursor, along with the matching desktop pack, over on my shop. A link for it will be in the description. I hope you enjoyed the video! If you're curious of how I made the wallpaper to go along with this cursor, check out this video here, where I take you through the process of using tile sets and custom objects to make backgrounds even quicker to make. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care out there. Goodbye!